Good morning, world, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're at on planet Earth. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing fantastic, and I am excited. I got a neat little show lined up for you. I think we're going to have a little bit of fun. And I think it's going to roll a little bit better than the last video I did with this setup. Did a video a few days ago, and I went back, checked out the comments, and saw that the video was just really choppy. Wasn't working too well. I don't know what was going on. YouTube, I mean, we all know that they like to mess with me and have done so for a long time. Could have been that. Could have been the fact that I had to do some crazy system updates with my laptop. And, you know, anytime you do some system updates, it throws everything all off. So, fiddled around with the settings a little bit, my streaming software. I think this one's going to go a lot better than the last one. And what are we going to talk about in this one? What we're going to discuss is a Vice News, somehow they call themselves News. I don't really know how that happened. We're going to talk about this Vice News article that came out yesterday that combines two of my favorite topics, QAnon and UFOs. And this article actually talks about me. So you already know I'm going to dig into every single little word this thing says. And this is it right here. It's called QAnon and UFO Conspiracies Are Merging. This is the headline of it. I don't really exactly know what that means. QAnon and UFO conspiracies are merging. Subheadline says, QAnon conspiracy theorists think UFO believers are easy marks, and in the absence of new Q posts, some of its followers have turned to UFOs. All right? Well, first all, they're insinuating there that QAnon researchers are conspiracy theorists, and looks to be insinuating that folks who follow QAnon are hawkish grifters, you know, seems to be suggesting they prey on UFO believers, and saying that in the absence of new Q posts, some of its followers have turned to UFOs as if it's a new thing. You know, in fact, a lot of people that follow QAnon, they've been researching UFOs for a long, long time. Many, even before Q started posting. And myself, for those of you that followed my channel before Q came about, you know I was talking about UFOs before Q. So this looks to be just some, you know, gobbledygook there to create the narrative right there in the headline. But before we digest, dissect, analyze the rest of this article, I want to first talk about the author of it. The author of it is a gentleman by the name of MJ Banias, if I'm getting that right. I've never heard the way his name's said. MJ is his name. This is his YouTube channel that I want to highlight because it's pretty interesting. MJ Banias there on YouTube, a little over 1,000 followers, but you can see what I have circled there. His channel's about UFOs. He talks about UFOs in pretty much all of his videos. I mean, really there you can see in the thumbnails. And then right there in the description talks about it. So he is I guess we could say he's a UFO believer, or at least kind of makes a living talking about it. So he at least believes it for that. So it's odd to me. Odd to me that here he is writing an article about UFOs, and yet he's a UFO believer. So that leads me to believe that there's a particular maybe narrative there. I mean, we've seen the mainstream media put out very specific narratives about UFOs. So maybe the fact that I talk about Q, I talk about UFOs, but I talk about UFOs in a very deep way, and I expose a lot of the fake, false disclosures, you know? Maybe there's a little bit of a sort of protectionism mindset that's going on. I don't know, maybe I'm threatening to a narrative. And then here he is on Twitter this morning. I just wanted to highlight this here because it is, I think, primo stuff. And I tweeted this article yesterday talking about Vice. Martin Geddes there replied to my tweet. Shout out to Martin, by the way. You know, I'll totally promote him here. Heck yeah. If you're not subscribed to his newsletter, definitely go do it. He does incredible work on Q and exposing propaganda, all sorts of stuff. I'll link his Twitter newsletter down below. Anyway, Martin replied to me on Twitter. I resolved long ago not to interact with the fake news. Seems like a policy worth considering. I appreciate that, you know. It's a good mindset to have, but I take a little bit different of a route. And it's not a worse route or bad route. It's just I go about it a little differently, as you guys know. I have no problem talking to mainstream media journalists and pundits and whatnot, but in my opinion, you just have to do it very carefully. Be very careful, selective with your words, of course, because they're trying to get any sound bites that they can. And you also have to just be respectful, strategic about it, you know? I said I enjoy interacting with them because a foiled attack can lead to a very dangerous counteroffensive. I think that's the case, you know? Say you talk to a mainstream media journalist, they go and write an article, well, you can just totally destroy that article. And then if it's written about me or I did an interview for it, then boom, I have firsthand experience in their propaganda games. So that's why I've done things like interview with the Washington Post and Comedy Central and all those things, because it gives you very good experience you can use later. But MJ, good old MJ chimed in at the bottom here, and he said, I honestly think you are a dangerous person because your words and ideas, whether you believe them or not, cause actual harm in the real world. Apparently I'm dangerous. I cause harm in the real world with my words and ideas. Nothing in the article is untrue, he says, can be fact-checked. And the quote I used from you was coherent and rational compared to the rest. Whoa! Shots fired! He gone done it! He gone and poked the bear! And poking the bear ain't something you want to do, let me tell you. Let's take a look at that. He thinks that I'm a dangerous person because my words and ideas cause actual harm in the real world. Oh man, I'm not dangerous in the least bit. Come on! I'm only dangerous to fragile egos who are way too full of themselves and full of the little belief systems they've ingrained themselves into. And second part here, nothing in the article is untrue, can be fact-checked. All right, we're going to do that here. And the quote he used from me was coherent and rational compared to the rest? Okay, we'll take a look at that quote, but, I mean, we can also take a look at the conversation we had. I don't know why these mainstream media journalists don't really realize that, like, people like me and others, we're our own media, and we can, like, show these things to people. Take screen caps, I don't know. I've done that to Will Sommer before, and then Jared Holt from Right Wing Watch and the Daily Beast, respectively. Okay, so let's just go through this article here. QAnon and UFO conspiracies are merging, and QAnon conspiracy theorists think UFO believers are easy marks. All right, first line here. It says, I'll read it for you. Might be a little small on the screen there, but I'll get my handy-dandy little marker out, and we'll take a look at this. It says, one of the most harmful conspiracy theory communities, being QAnon, is grafting onto one of the oldest conspiracy theory communities, and disinformation experts are starting to get worried. So like we said there, he's trying to frame Q as being crazy. You know, he's saying that I cause harm in the real world because of my thoughts and actions. He's really inferring to my discussion of Q. You know, he tends to believe that somehow Q has inspired these mass shooters and this hate-filled content, this violence, this extremism, which, I mean, we can very easily discredit those particular narratives that get thrown about everywhere. Calling the QAnon community here harmful, saying it's grafting onto one of the oldest conspiracy theory communities, but as we discussed earlier, I mean, this guy is like calling himself as conspiracy theorist here, I guess. I don't know. It's like a contradiction that the mainstream media hasn't really addressed over the last 2 years, that UFOs have been relegated to conspiracy theory for so long, but now they're not. I don't know. I don't get it. And then disinformation experts are starting to get worried. I can't wait to see what disinformation experts those people supposedly are. All right, next paragraph. QAnon, the often unintelligible conspiracy theory. Well, it's only unintelligible to those who don't have the intelligence to research it or put the dots together, you know. The often unintelligible conspiracy theory that our government is being run by the deep state, and there is a whistleblower within the government, pseudonymously, known as Q, who is trying to protect us from it, is beginning to find an audience among UFO hunters and people who believe the government is hiding aliens. As we laid out earlier, no, it's nothing new. Many of these UFO researchers have been Q researchers for a long time, and many even before Q came onto the scene. So, yeah, there's just, again, they write articles for people who basically would have no understanding of any of this stuff, so they can just brainwash, mind control right there, set up the narrative. Let's see. Next, as Q followers wait for more cryptic quotes from their enigmatic forum poster. My gosh, what a way to just put all sorts of preconceived notion out there, right? It seems that many have turned to the UFO narrative for their conspiratorial fix. 8chan, the image board where anonymous handle Q posts, has been shut down. Simultaneously, opportunists on the UFO side of things have tapped into the QAnon conspiracy to grow their follower count. What has occurred, especially in the last 12 months, is the rise of a new politically laden conspiracy movement that bridges the gap between Trump's election, UFOs, the deep state, and aliens. Again, it's not new. I don't know what he's talking about. And I sort of have said this before, and you'll see it a little clearly as we move on here. What I've often said is this big mainstream media UFO push over the last 2 years, what that's doing is setting up a lot of gatekeepers. They're all around. They might be film producers that you might see on Joe Rogan, or alleged insiders that are on Joe Rogan. Might be mainstream media journalists, might be a dude that has a podcast, could be Tom DeLonge even himself. There's a lot of gatekeepers being set up to push the pre-approved narratives about UFOs. And they're very whitewashed, they're very watered down. It's hardly a fraction of the truth in regards to UFOs. And then these gatekeepers are also shitting on Q. They're promoting just all sorts of false narratives about all sorts of different topics, you know. So it's a limited hangout. As I've said before, as I've repeated many times, limited hangout. The intelligence community at the deep levels are purposefully greenlighting a lot of this information to come forward. They're volunteering it for the public. So what that can then do is, in their eyes, hopefully allow them to brush the bigger secrets under the rug. The bigger secret space program UFO secrets, all the other stuff that Q talks about, the political corruption, etc., etc. Very important word concept to understand is limited hangout. Then you can apply it to many different things we see the propaganda media push. And if you want to talk about what's actually dangerous to the real world, what's causing actual harm, it's the fake news media. In the mainstream, in the alternative, that whole complex. That's what's causing actual harm, because that's why the corruption can't get cleaned up. Because people don't know about it. Can't get exposed. One of the things definitely causing harm in the real world is fake media. Okay, moving on. This is where I come into play. Earlier this month, popular conspiracy YouTuber Jordan Sather, thanks man, calling me popular, referenced 2 specific Q posts, and these were the posts that Q made in September of last year. Space programs exist outside of public domain. False moon landings are real. ET life is highest classification. Consider the vastness of space. I made a tweet about those drops. He links the tweet here. And what I said about it. This confirms that information about UFOs and cosmic life is known at the highest levels by Q and Trump. And this group is working to disclose these things. Massive implications. Yeah, makes sense, right? If Q is high-level military intel working in and around the White House, then yeah, they're telling us that space programs exist outside of public domain, and life outside of our Earth is of the highest classification to the intelligence community. That's some profound stuff right there. And that's definitely something that's, well, of course, not talked about in the mainstream media, but also not talked about at a lot of the, shall we say, corporate UFO events that I've gone to. It's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about for their bottom line. Let's move on through this piece. QAnon's ideological mythos does not naturally contain significant references to UFOs. It has predominantly focused on a political and, quote, anti-government paradigm. It's not anti-government. That's something that you can see threaded throughout this article. It's not anti-government. It's anti-corruption that's infiltrated the government, all right? There's a lot of good people everywhere. Good people in the government, good people even in corporations, big bad corporations, and good people in the intelligence community, right? It's not so black and white. It's very gray, and we have to be specific with these sort of things because it helps understand the true picture. So, however, and that's true, Q has not been focused on UFOs, of course, because that's farther along the disclosure road. We got to get a lot of people woken up to just basic political corruption right now. However, goes on to write, that has not stopped some from peddling Q to the UFO community. Peddling. Again, the underlying theme of grifting, hawking, peddling. Gosh, the sort of neuro-linguistic programming bullshit they do. It's if you know how to look for it, it's obvious. Out of Q's 3,750 posts, only 4 reference UFOs, and they aren't exactly direct or clear. They aren't direct or clear. They're damn clear. Space programs exist outside of public domain. Highest classification. That very clear. I don't know what exactly that means. And only 4 referencing UFOs is wrong as well. There's like double that. There's like 7 or 8 from all the drops I've studied that in some way reference UFOs or space. And so that just goes to show you, you know, these mainstream media journalists, they only do as much research as they need to do to get the 800,000 word article that they need to get their paycheck from their producer or editor. And they, of course, the information they even put in their articles is wrong anyway. So there's more than 4, and they are clear. In fact, I should do a video coming up on all of them, and I will. So there's that. But people like Sather, it gets good. It gets good here. But people like Sather, who has nearly 200,000 YouTube subscribers. Yeah, about to hit the 200K now. And I still don't have a play button. About to hit 200,000 YouTube subscribers, and like Alex Jones, sells, quote, miracle vitamin products on his website, has recently taken to promoting a complex and confusing UFO cover-up involving a secret space program, and that most UFOs are advanced human technology being created to fight the cabal, otherwise known as the deep state, and that punk rocker turned UFO mogul Tom DeLonge is their puppet. Wow, okay, that's a lot to cover, but let's go through it. Well, throwing in Alex Jones in there, you know, that's what the mainstream media loves to do. That's one of the reasons they have Alex Jones around, is to throw into the big cauldron and make everything sound crazy. He actually links my website in here and somehow has the miracle in quotes. You won't find the word miracle on my website, so that's 100% false right there. But, dude, all you'll find on my website is, like, greens powders. Greens powders and some hemp oil and, like, Ormus. I don't know. It's crazy there. Anyway, thanks for linking my website. Shout out there. Free promo. I've recently taken to promoting a complex and confusing UFO cover-up. That's basically what I was just describing. Like, the deep state is freeing up a tiny piece of the UFO picture just to, in order to muddy a lot of the waters, right? It's pretty simple if you know, I mean, it is complex, but it's simple at the same time if you really boil it down. You know, it's, if you make complex topics complex, that means you don't really know them too well. You can make complex topics very simple if you know them properly. And right here, involving a secret space program and that most UFOs are advanced human technology being created to fight the cabal. Again, where the hell did I say that? I mean, I would love if he actually linked the information in this article, doesn't link Q's actual posts, doesn't link my actual quotes, you know? No, most of the secret spacecraft, we could say, that have been developed since the 1940s, around then, they're not created to fight the cabal. They were made by cabal companies, Lockheed and Boeing and them. Like, I don't get it. So this is just totally wrong. And then right here, I love this line. That punk rocker turned UFO mogul, Tom DeLonge is their puppet. You see that? There's that love for Tom DeLonge, calling him a UFO mogul. Ha! Setting up the gatekeepers. You know, they're literally like, it's very cultish, honestly. It's a very cult-like mentality. They're setting up their own echo chambers and their own authorities, and then trying to kick out the rest. Sather told Motherboard that he believes Q is an avenue to increase public awareness about the information and connections that these powers that be have been trying to hide from us, with UFOs being one of those secrets. They are working for disclosure of many truths, not just extraterrestrial life and secret space programs already existing, many different things. That sounds pretty rational and coherent to me, right? And last one here, and we'll move on. Disinformation experts say that the intersection of conspiracy theories is common and can be particularly dangerous. Particularly dangerous. Well, I mean, first of all, everything's connected, right? QAnon, UFOs, political corruption, big pharma. I say that all the time because it's true. Everything is connected in some way, shape, or form. So right here, you can literally see they have their fake authorities, their disinformation experts. They're about to plug into this article. They don't want these people to start connecting the dots. They want to keep them segmented, right? They want to keep the UFO community segmented from all this over here. Because once people start connecting those dots between all the communities, they go, oh, that's the big picture, right? These folks don't want you to see the big picture. So now, let's take a look at those supposedly incoherent and irrational quotes from mine, okay? Sather told Motherboard. I didn't tell Motherboard. I told MJ, all right? I told MJ, and I'm going to show you a little snippet of the conversation that I had with MJ here on Twitter. Yeah, I don't know. They don't think that I can do these things. You can see on the left there, I blocked out the rest of my conversations because you don't need to see those things. We're just interested in what's on the right here. He messaged me about 3 weeks ago. He said, hey, can I ask you a few questions for some research I'm doing? I'm looking at the connections between the QAnon phenomenon and UFOs. I know you and I have had, quote, words on Twitter, and maybe we had, I don't quite remember. So I've been very critical of you, so I apologize for my comments, he says. Appreciate that. I'm not proud of them. I guess doesn't matter 3 weeks later. However, this is strictly professional moving forward. So professional that they released that bullshit article. We occupy different sandboxes. I said, no big deal, brother. I'm not one that lets criticism make me hate somebody. Different viewpoints, that's all. I felt that was a good response. He then said, so I'm doing a piece on QAnon and UFO, well, conspiracies, I know, mainstream media. On record question, do I see a connection between QAnon and UFOs? Why do the two ideas go together? And this is my response here. You can see I was very careful to craft this a particular way because I know that he's wanting stuff for an article. So I said, well, and the reason I'm doing this isn't to put the guy on blast, but he kind of tried to put me on blast. So, hey, do no harm, but take no shit. But what I'm doing here, it's a good learning exercise. I mean, my answers here will help you get educated. I was trying to educate this gentleman. I mean, that's really the goal here. I wasn't being disrespectful. When I talk to mainstream media journalists, period, I'm not disrespectful. Really, I'm trying to create a connect there. And I'm trying to educate them. And I know they want to use my answers in their articles, so I end up knowing I should make my answer for everybody along with them. You see, you got to be very strategic with how you craft your answers to mainstream media journalists that just want a story. So I said, well, everything is connected in some way, shape, or form. So yes, there's always, oh man, I'm getting donations from Flat Earth shills. Keep your money, man. Just keep your money. Anyway, why do I think the two go together? Well, I think we can both agree that the UFO cover-up extends to the depths of the deep state / military corporate industrial complex. One of the many topics we've been given lies about from the establishment for a long time, for various reasons. With Q being conducted as an operation led by white hats within the government and intelligence community to combat the deep state and corrupt bad actors, they are using Q as an avenue to increase public awareness about the information and connections that these powers that be have been trying to hide from us, with UFOs being one of those secrets. They are working for disclosure of many truths, not just ETs, SSPs already existing. Sounds coherent to me. He said, in a few videos, you've talked about aliens and that you believe the deep state is, quote, run by various evil races like reptilians and Dracos. Do I still maintain that line of thinking? Do I believe Q maintains a similar line of thinking? Very weird question, and I knew what he was trying to get at with that question. Again, another reason I'm showing these messages is because these are the sort of tactics that I've not just dealt with MJ, but I've dealt with Will Sommer, other mainstream journalists who've reached out to me. They're trying to bait you. They bait you for a particular response for a soundbite that they can go and run in an article. And I knew he was trying to bait me, trying to connect the reptilian stuff with Q. So I was like, no. First of all, he's not even giving me the quotes where I said these things. Like, what video, dude? When have I ever said I believe the deep state is run by various evil races specifically? Like, where's that quote? I haven't said that. So my answer was, would I say I, quote, believe the deep state is run by various evil races, end quote? Not exactly. I would not say that. I think that's far too much of an oversimplification for the situation. I would say there has been interesting information presented by military whistleblowers and other insiders to build a case, along with ancient historical connections, that extraterrestrial races have influenced and could be currently influencing human affairs, both benevolently and malevolently, good and bad, okay? Great way to put it. We don't know. We don't know. You know, that's why I often say I don't have, like, beliefs. My beliefs can change at any given moment with any given evidence or new information. But let's just see where the evidence that we have seen takes us. And that's where it takes us. ETs have definitely been involved in human affairs in the past, and we don't know exactly how now, but there's a lot of stuff out there that we can ascertain as to what's going on. And then my next part of this question, I said, and does Q maintain this line of thinking? Well, my answer to that is that we do not know who is within that core group involved with the Q program. Do you hear how I laid that out? I didn't say Q was a he or a she or a person. Q's a program. There's people in that core group of it. We don't know what they know. We don't even know who they are. So we cannot know for sure what they specifically believe or what classified information they may have seen. What we can do is look at the posts made through Q themselves, which can be done on websites like qmap.pub or qanon.pub. You know, just me thinking this might get out to everybody. So far in my own analyzing, I've not found any information or hints that lead to any specific species. And that's true. In analyzing the Q's drops, nothing about species. But they have acknowledged that extraterrestrial forms of life very much exist, man-made secret space programs exist, and the UFO ET subject is of the highest classification to the intelligence community / powers that be. Those were posts made on September 19, 2018, so I directed him right to it. There's my evidence, bro. He says, I've seen them. I've gone through all the Q posts possibly related. It's like 4, as we've said, that's wrong. He referenced UFOs or secret space programs in 4 or 5 posts out of 3,500. It's like 7 or 8. I'll show you guys that in the future. Then he asks, so you personally have a belief that ET races are visiting Earth. You've talked about it before in videos. You've talked about reptilians and Nordics. He's saying I've talked about all these things, but I need quotes, man. I don't remember what I freaking said. What made you develop that? What made you develop that line of thinking? What convinced you of that? And at this point, I knew that I gave him the answers that I needed to, the information I needed to. Gave him a couple nice long answers. So he was just continuing trying to, I don't know where he was really going from here. So I just said research. That's what made me develop that line of thinking. Research. What research? I've been doing this for 6 years. Shit, I was a UFO investigator. What'd I miss? And I said, I don't know what to tell you there, man. There's so much information out there that we're swimming in. I'm not sure what you've read or experienced. Maybe the data already there is already in front of you. You just haven't given it a proper thought yet. So that was my response to him, and that's true. I mean, a lot of people out there, they're just, again, caught up with their own cognitive dissonances, caught up in their own little echo chambers, and their own little, belief bubbles. And they have a hard time getting out of those belief bubbles. So I hope he will someday, truly. I don't want anybody to get left behind. And I hope the mainstream media does. Good comment there. I'll tolerate flat earthers that donate plus 50. For sure. So let's see here. Let's finish up. I just got a couple more we'll go through. Then the disinformation experts come into the picture here. Gets good. I think that intersectionality is really important when discussing various online conspiracy theories whose relevance is partially handcuffed to the news cycle. Ben Decker, a lead analyst for the Global Disinformation Index, said. The Global Disinformation Index. That sounds, I mean, that's like a glorified way of saying Wikipedia or Snopes, basically, right? Global Disinfo Index. And he's saying the intersectionality is really important when discussing various online conspiracy theories whose relevance is partially handcuffed to the news cycle. That's just some word salad for trying to say that, or trying to make the connection between Q, I guess, overtaking the UFO community as they're trying to outlay here. Anna Merlan, ooh, she's a classic gatekeeper of theirs, authority of theirs. I've seen her name in so many mainstream media articles over the last couple of years. She basically wrote a book here called Republic of Lies, American Conspiracy Theories and Their Surprising Rise to Power. So because she wrote this book, that basically means that she's their go-to authority source that they're going to point to in any article they need. I've seen articles on like geoengineering and things like that also mention her in her book. So they're setting up their authorities. And now she's a senior staff writer at Vice. So that tells you all you need to know. She says that many online QAnon pundits have chosen to enter the ufological world to tap into a much larger market. Where's your evidence? 100%. Who? What QAnon pundits have done that? I'm not going to say the only, but if you really want to know the depths about what's going on with UFOs and space and also Q, I'm like one of the only people that's going to be able to do that for you. So what many online QAnon pundits have entered the ufological world? Hardly any. There's a handful of people in the UFO community that discuss Q, but I mean, they're not like QAnon pundits. They're not doing it for the larger markets because they're all people who were talking about UFOs for a long, long time. So 100% bullshit here. Where's that button?
Fake news.
Yeah.
Fake news. Fake news.
Just keeps going. Both Q and the broader UFO community operate fundamentally on a premise of hidden knowledge yet to be revealed. Whether it's, quote, disclosure or the idea that all Q's prophecies, mass arrests, dark warnings, and ominous half messages will someday be made clear, Anna Merlan said. Because Q is a relatively new conspiracy movement, it's full of opportunists, and a lot of them are canny enough to know that they'll do well to build their followings by trying to graft Q onto an older, more established, more respected research community. UFOs make perfect sense there. So again, they're calling the UFO conspiracy theory community respected and researched, but at the same time, they're like also calling UFO conspiracy theory. It's like a contradiction there. Is it legit or not? So you can see what they're trying to do is make specific UFO information legit. Shove the rest out. Throw Q with that. And again, Q's prophecies, ominous half messages, making it seem dark and violent, undertones of that. Like, these are people that are really good fiction writers that are tasked to write nonfiction. That's pretty much it. Still ends up being fiction anyway. People just think it's nonfiction. Sather is just one voice of many individuals who all believe in similar narratives. What? I'm my own voice. I don't speak for anybody else out there but myself. And that goes for any single other person you ever listen to. They just speak for themselves, okay? Unless they're elected to be a part of an organization and be the spokesperson or something like that. I haven't been. I don't speak for anybody. Continuing, a well-known character in UFO circles, Dr. Michael Salla, has often referenced Q on his website. Salla, a frequent face on the UFO circuit, has suggested Trump has sent coded messages regarding both Q and UFOs. So Dr. Salla, there's another person, frankly, one of the only people I trust in the ufology community because he talks about everything and how it's all connected. There they are, trying to throw shade on an individual who talks about UFOs too deeply. Talks about secret space programs too deeply and also connects that to Q. They can't have that. They got to throw shade on him. But, you know, all publicity is good publicity as long as you're speaking the truth. So keep doing your thing, Michael Sala. Great books, great resources that guy is to understand space and UFOs with. So there's that. Moving on. QAnon and UFOs clearly make good bedfellows. The 7 decades of alleged government cover-ups and conspiratorial narratives creates fertile ground for easy connections to other conspiracy narratives. No, I mean, the truth is just out there with the internet. It's all getting connected. So, making good bedfellows. It's incredible how they're using that division to continue the division. While there exists a perception that conspiracy theories are harmless tinfoil hat-wearing loners, sowing discord and mistrust in established institutions. Loners. My videos get like 40,000 views each. I don't know. Sowing discord and mistrust in established institutions. The problem is they're not established, and they're sowing their own discord and mistrust by all the frickin' corruption we're finding out. What kind of narcissistic psycho talk is this? Such as the government or military, it's a known tool of psychological warfare and social engineering. So they're claiming that the conspiracy theorists are the ones doing the psychological warfare and social engineering. I mean, they try to claim conspiracy theorists are stupid, but if they're really involved in psychological warfare and social engineering, they must be pretty smart to do that though, right? No, because the psychological warfare and social engineering comes from places like Vice. It's just backwards world, man. Spin everything they say 180 degrees and you got the truth. Conspiracy theories, and those individuals who promote them can be far from harmless. Oh, I'm dangerous. Boogeyman, oh. It's that Halloween season too, so it's like Fright Fest out there. They're really banking on that. By reframing conspiracies as adversarial narratives, we can understand each one as a collection of connected events whose stories are distributed across several platforms and bits and pieces as a means of enraging and dividing internet users, Decker said. There's their other disinformation expert. Back in again. Oftentimes, the various claims used to push specific narratives focus on a range of themes, many of which are covered on a daily basis in mainstream and fringe media, which in turn create frequent opportunities to weaponize both the news cycles and political rhetoric by inserting more polarizing and fabricated talking points before pivoting into full-blown conspiracy theories. It's what we call fantasy land, folks. That's fantasy land being created in action for the public. Fantasy land. And again, it's that narcissistic speak. As they do, they like to project. They like to act like they're not doing what's wrong and you're doing really what they're doing that's wrong, right? So the mainstream media are the ones that use political rhetoric, as we very well know. They use opportunities to weaponize the news cycle. Absolutely. They're the ones who put in the polarizing and fabricated talking points. And they're the ones that pivot into full-blown conspiracy theories. So there you go. Oh, here we go. The QAnon conspiracy has been partially linked to Russian-based disinformation campaigns because it tends to fit how Russia has worked in the past to generate mistrust within a populace. Woo! Talk about those fabricated talking points for some bullshit to weaponize right there. They're making it way too easy for me, folks. And then the very last one that I have for you guys. This has been fun. Long video, but this has been fun. Okay. Let's mark up this one. Boom. Past to generate mistrust within populace. Amplifying the QAnon conspiracy in particular, while unproven, demonstrates their modus operandi of amplifying existing social tensions by increasing the perception of popularity of certain concepts or sentiments. I literally don't know what this guy's talking about right now. Decker said, more than anything else, conspiracy networks create a stochastic threat of violence whereby supporters are encouraged to go out into the real world to investigate the truth without consideration for rule of law, which they often consider a tool of the deep state. My gosh, they think their big words will make them sound legit. Amplifying the QAnon conspiracy theory in particular, while unproven, there we go, false. How many times has it been proofed? Demonstrates their modus operandi of amplifying existing social tensions by increasing the perception of popularity of certain concepts or sentiments. What do you mean amplifying the perception of popularity? You can literally see how many views that videos like mine and other Q researchers, QAnon followers get. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. How many people are online spreading Q's posts? I mean, it's not like the perception of popularity is amplified. The perception is just search for the truth for yourself. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then right here, akin to the Alex Jones mention where they were trying to throw me in with Alex Jones earlier, now they throw Dr. Stephen Greer in here. Dr. Stephen Greer, popular UFO pundit who claims he can teach people to harmoniously communicate with extraterrestrials, has appeared several times on the Russian state-sponsored news channel RT to talk about alien contact and UFOs. In February, Greer told RT's Sophie that 3 of his colleagues were assassinated by the CIA for attempting to disclose the truth behind a government-run UFO cover-up. So they do basically the Alex Jones model with Stephen Greer here, and I think that's one of the ways that they sort of have him to use him, is that, you know, anything it touches turns to weird, and they can easily dissuade a mainstream public with it. So throwing Stephen Greer in here and this weird claim, and we already saw that they threw the Russian thing in there about Q, so let's talk about Greer going on Russian networks, and ooh, that'll make it sound really bad. And then, oh, well, we'll put this claim in there that Greer said where some of his colleagues were assassinated by the CIA. I don't know if that's true or not. Frankly, I have plenty of my own suspicions about Dr. Stephen Greer, but again, they're just like putting all this in a crazy stuff in a cauldron and mixing it together for the reader to making them think these things. The danger here lies in the fact that disinformation ecosystems are self-sustaining and self-propagating. You mean like CNN and Vice and Washington Post and the New York Times? Yeah, those are disinformation ecosystems. And no, they're not self-sustaining and self-propagating because they get a lot of money from like George Soros and all them. But no, it's just 100% wrong here. While the QAnon and UFO celebrities like Sather and Greer share their stories, their followers engage in the act of spreading that information to new potential followers. So there you go there. Decker explained that institutional distrust, perceived cultural threats, and apocalyptic paranoia are shared characteristics across a number of different conspiracy communities. And as UFOs continue to make the news cycle, the conspiracy theories, conspiracy narratives about them will continue. So that's all, man. That is all. So as I said, that is a massive whitewash. And that's pretty much what they're doing. How they're setting it up. They're promoting all this UFO stuff everywhere to try to grasp people's attention with watered down partial truths with misinformation mixed in. And then, I mean, there's shills all over the UFO community as well that are promoting the mainstream UFO narratives, all sorts of controlled opposition within the UFO community itself. The Q community is a threat. The Q community is a threat because it's so new and it's catalyzed so many and it's building up a lot of independent researchers that it's a threat to their narratives. And people like me who research Q and also expose a lot of the stuff about UFOs, I'm a threat to a lot of different narratives. Okay, I've gotten attacked for researching Q, getting attacked for researching UFOs. I've gotten attacked for talking about natural health and vaccines and things like that, exposing big pharma on this program. So there you go, guys. There you go. I'm not afraid to talk to the media because I know what they're going to try to do. So I talk to them respectfully, level-headedly as I can. And when they go and do things like this, then I can go and do things like this. And, you know, just continue exposing them. They're really exposing themselves, right? They're just exposing themselves. We're just helping along with the process and helping folks wake up through the process. So there you go, everybody. You can see all the socials and whatnot. Follow me on that graphic if you want to support me. PayPal, the tip jar, or you can subscribe to Patreon, get some exclusive stuff there, and check out the website, sub for the newsletter, check out the shop. You know, me hawking my miracle things. Ah, shucks. Anyway, that's all for this one, guys. I'll see you soon. Much more coming. Done.